Here we are again. So as I said, we're gonna see the display options. Yes, first time I was learning Vue, I've got really big problems with displaying, with managing my viewports, etc. So I really want to avoid for people who are starting with Vue this kind of problems, because we don't have the right drivers, we don't have the right configuration, and you have flickering and displaying problems, etc. So I want to avoid for beginners this kind of problem, because it's really annoying, and I don't want people to be stuck at this point. And yeah, just for detail, when I first started learning Vue, always were asking what these menus stand for, what these dialogues do, etc., etc. So I was pretty interested in every detail of these menus, and I think the best way to help people starting with Vue is to explain them what these menus and what these options stand for. Get started and let's parameter Vue so that it fits perfectly your configuration. Generally, if you have a good CG, I recommend using GL 2.1 shader 4. So in my case, I use a fixed pipeline engine. My CG is the 9400 GT. It's an NVIDIA GeForce. Your video board should be able to run the shader engine with the right drivers. So we need right drivers. So I didn't update my CG, but I'm on the way. Please refer to the Eon Software website for an update of list of compatible drivers. So okay, here if you have a good a recent CG, I think graphic card, I think you'll be able to use the OpenGL 2.1 shader 4, and here you can use the auto display config, which will do the thing for you. It depending on what you want, but in my opinion I prefer using the fixed pipeline, so it let me adjust every little detail, like enable background draw, use anti-aliasing, and line anti-aliasing. I can parameter instant draw, etc., so it will be better or faster, because here just background draw. Here you can adjust depending on your performance, because here for my example, you can take my example and the parameter and the default parameter, but it working like a charm with my configuration. As you can see, I'm a Pt2 like 2 CPU, and they have the 400 GT. So I think it's pretty decent configuration. And here you have the maximum usable video memory. I think I can go higher, and this is the memory that can be used by the software. So depending on your CG, also if you have really like a GTX or like 580 GTX or something, a GTX, you can really go higher and choose like I don't know, a higher value. In my case, I tried different, and I think this one is the best for me. And you can limit the OpenGL polygons. Here you have the OpenGL texturing option. If you feel like your PC is going slow, etc., or you have problem in displaying in viewport, you can uncheck this option, so it will save some resources for you, and then you can use your viewports and move there and create plans without being slowed down. So here we have the auto color whenever possible. I really don't know what this option stands for, and I didn't really use it. So let's go on and continue. We have the OpenGL Lightning, and this is pretty good option I often use. Here we have the if I disable this OpenGL Lightning and do OK. For example, if I create a sphere, for example, and I came to move it, as you can see, we have here a little shadow which let us know where the sphere is positioned, for example, and it let us have a better view of our have a better view, or how can we say that, a preview of what's going on. So but by default the option is checked, and I like it, and here I use accurate sun shadow previewing. So now if I create a sphere, depending on the position of the sun, it will be if I show you, you can see depending on the position of the sun, the shadows and the display will change. I really like it because it gives you an idea of where the shadow will be, etc. So it's pretty useful and pretty. For example, here if I put it and zoom it like this, if I render, I would see the shadow here, so I know already that the shadow will be there. So if I create another sphere, for example, and I want it to be at the same sorry, I'm just duplicate it, and I want it to be in the same place. I don't want the this shadow, or the shadow of the first sphere overrides my second. It's pretty like this. In some cases it's helpful, in others it's not, depending also on your performance on your machine. Sorry, excuse me again. Then okay, render again. I can see here the shadow is overriding. For example, if I want to avoid this by this display, I can just slightly move it like over here and try, and now it's not, just little tips, not obligatory you use this. And as I said, it takes a little bit of resources, so generally I use it like this. So if you want to do so, go on. And here for atmospheres, we have it's displaying or preview. When creating an atmosphere, you have here in your viewport and in the preview here the type of lens flares, planets, clouds, etc. And this is the atmosphere. So when your computer is going a little bit slowly, you can uncheck it, and then it will go a little bit faster. So you can use it just depending on your performances or on your project. If you have a very big project, I think it's better to deactivate it, because I think it will occupy a lot of resources. For example, if I can show you here, just a moment. For example, and if I applied an atmosphere, load it in the atmosphere, for like this one. So here we would see how the sunlight, as you can see, the clouds, and it's updating. And depending on the performances, the specification of your PC, it will be faster or slower, and this is, for example, will occupy a lot of resources. So if I deactivate and do OK, then it will display nothing. Okay, pretty simple to understand. Till now I let it checked and create a new scene. Okay, just do something, because when okay, now let's go back to options. Now for the view options, here we can just pretty basic and pretty easy to understand. You can parameter it easily. I just want to point out to the show scale and views, and this is when you modeling or creating at scale, you have to check it. I think it's really useful, and it's only on view 9. Here we would have a scale, as you can see, and even it shows you how much you are far, the scale of your creations are pretty useful. So I think it's one of the improvement in view 9. So again, options, display. Here you can show bounding boxes and groups, etc. Pretty basic options here for changing the wireframes and the selected color. Here just want to point here for these settings when you're a little bit out of resources. Also, we have some great options here. So now we have the degraded modes. This one's when you have some lack of resources, you can disable advanced previews if resources drop below, you know, as we saw with the history later before, and remove background, draw geometries if resources draw, etc, etc, you know. I think it's pretty basic option. And rapidly we're gonna browse through units and coordinates. Here we have the default display unit as metric. I also use meters in my creations. Here we have the spherical scene. If you want to sea level, order of rotation, this depending on how you work usually in your 3D programs, and now you can parameter it as you want. Okay, so I don't wanna here for example the z-axis up. If you are if you usually work with y-axis as up, then you can change it. And here we have the left-handed or right-handed, is all depending on your abilities and how you work usually. So I'll add the option like this, and let's continue on. I want to point out to the edit menu and the object menu. Well, the edit menu will let you, when you have objects in scene, will give you the ability to work with this. And for example, if I want to select my object here and edit, I can cut, copy, paste animation, duplicate, rename, etc. I have a lot of options here. Select by wireframe color or by object type, object material. Here it's pretty simple options here. I don't want to really lose time because I want to get to something more interesting. So let's continue. Here you can replace by keeping proportions or by fitting the object. For example, I want a cylinder here, it will directly replace it. And if I want to replace 10k proportion, I can replace by cube, so the cube will be the same proportion. Pretty simple and easy to use. So alignment tool, I can align objects, flipping vertically or horizontally, dropping objects, you know, it will put it at the ground level. Smart drop objects, depending, scattering replicates, you know. If you use any other 3D program, I think it will be easy for you. We're gonna see all this when we get to the ecosystems and terrains, etc. So pretty simple. And here we have the paint ecosystem. Now if we we can add some plants or object tracks and then paint them over here. So this is really useful for creating ecosystems, and it's called the ecosystem painter, as we can see in 3D Max, in Maya, etc. Really impressive tools to use here in Vue. And now if we take a look at the object menu, you can see that we can have the create here. We can create all these object, meta clouds, rocks, plants, stories, pyramid, terrain, procedural terrain, water, ground plane. As you can see, we can retrieve all these objects over here, and we're gonna take a look at this one just after ending with the menu bar. So here's the object, and I can add light, point light, etc. And you can see it's pretty simple to use. I've just created your light and parameter it, adding light, just select the object, adding light, etc. Can group objects if you have a couple of objects there. Sorry, if you have a couple of objects there, you can duplicate it, select them, and object, and do a group object. And here we have a group, and when we select, pretty though make Boolean object, Boolean operation. This is gonna be seen in more precise tutorial, but what I want is that you will be able to use Vue like when for creating what you want, because making Boolean object is more advanced techniques, etc., or creating meta blob or hyper blob object. These are for very specific and in an advanced on an advanced level. So just saying what contain the object menu and doing our thing. So here we can ungroup objects. If I group two ones, I can now ungroup objects. So bake to polygons, convert to area light. This means that they will emit light. If I render here, you can see that they will emit light. It's pretty like when you use it in Max. And object, change object material. Look in here, changing. You have a big collection of materials you can use. Also we have cornucopia here, but most of them are ready to use. So edit object graph, this is where you will edit your functions, etc. It's very powerful and we'll take a closer look in upcoming tutorials. So let's continue on. Hide from render means that they will not render even if I okay, pretty simple. Object, I can check it. Object, pick link, parent, this for parenting, and display option like wireframe, fill box, etc. I think it's pretty basic. Now for atmosphere, this is pretty simple menu, which is load atmosphere. Here for loading atmospheres, got rays, also cornucopia, and save atmosphere, add cloud layer, atmosphere editor, and this we're gonna take a look in a pretty in a specific tutorial how to parameter all these things here. Okay, render, here we have for rendering. Rendering here, select render area. If you want to render just part of the image like this, it will render for you. You will not waste time in rendering all the image just to see this cube, for example. Okay, I don't want. Okay, now we have the render here, F9. Okay, we have the render options. Okay, you're gonna see how to parameter this when creating or in other tutorials. Quick render, post render options. This options is for animation, batch rendering, display raster render, etc. For animation, you have the animation wizard, which will let you create an animation, a flying animation, or etc. Here, automation like macro. You're gonna see how to record, and display like creating camera, activate camera, deactivate camera, frame, save frame, etc. So pretty useful options and simple to understand options here on display. And you have the help with the quick kickstart tutorial and the overview. So I recommend using a lot the overview. In my case, I really often use it because it's really useful. Just type your key, or like, I don't know, rendering, and it will guide you through to rendering using the poser shader 3, for example, just page, and you can go directly to this one. Yes, very useful. The overview, I think it will be one of the weapons you'll use to getting started into Vue.